Welcome to another video from Never a Truer Word. And in this video, we're going to look at this neighbour of the Idaho Four. Does he know something? And does he deserve the label of suspect that has been put on him by some people in the true crime community? And we'll do that by looking at the words he used in one of his television experiences. The Idaho murders it's a shocking story. 4 students killed in the one house near the University of Idaho. At the time of recording, the police don't seem to have a suspect. They don't even seem to know a motive as to what happened and why it happened. Just a horrific story. And this neighbour of the Idaho Four, the 4 people who were killed, has given a few television interviews, and people have been watching these and raising some questions about it. His demeanour has raised some questions, and what he's saying has raised some questions as well. So let's look at the words from one of his television experiences. It's the one that's on the screen, and there's a link to this interview in the description below so you can watch it yourself. And let's dig into what he says, because often people will reveal more than they intend to with the words that they use. So let's have a look at the words he uses and see if we can find out what is going on. He starts by saying, occasionally there were parties that were kind of loud. Most of the time it was pretty self-contained, but yeah, as I would take my dog in and out to go to the bathroom, I would just be walking by. I would look up and I would see people in the windows almost every night, probably 4 or 5 nights a week. So there were a lot of people that went into and out of that house pretty frequently. I don't know the question he was asked to get this answer, but he starts by talking about the parties that were occasionally loud but self-contained. And then he goes into talking about the comings and goings and the people that were at the house. I don't know if he was asked about them or not, but he's really quite detailed about them. And I'm interested in why, before he says what he saw at the house, he feels the need to justify how he knows this, how he saw this. For some reason, he can't just say, about 4 or 5 nights a week, there's definitely lots of people in the house. He has to tell us that he only knows this because he would take his dog for a walk. And when he was walking by, he would look up. And he says, I would just be walking by. And I think he's trying to downplay, make it sound really innocent here. I was looking after my dog. I was doing a good thing. But it feels to me like he was observing this house pretty closely. So he's doing some justification as to why he was looking at this house. I wasn't really looking at the house. It was a side effect of me being a nice person and taking my dog for a walk. I would just be walking by suggests he was doing a little bit more than walking by. He also says he saw people in the window, and he gives us his reasons for why he saw the people in the window. He was walking his dog, he'd look up, he'd see people in the window. He doesn't say how he knew that people went into and out of that house pretty frequently. He doesn't give us any reason as to why he knew that. I don't think it's something you would see as you were just walking your dog. So how has he been watching this house more closely than he'd like to admit? He starts telling us something in the present tense as well. Look at the third line down. He says, but yeah, as I would take my dog in and out to go to the bathroom. So he wants to tell us about a specific event. As I was taking my dog, but he then stops and starts again in the general sense. As I would take my dog in and out to go to the bathroom. What was he going to say? What was that specific thing that he was going to talk about? We'll look and say, he does use the past tense to talk about this. So occasionally there were parties that were kind of loud. I would take my dog. I would be walking by. So there were a lot of people that went into and out of that house pretty frequently. So he seems to think the party times are finished in that house. Now, that's not illogical given what has happened in that house, but he certainly feels that whatever was happening in that house is now finished. And I notice as well, there's a repetition here. He talks about taking his dog in and out to go to the bathroom. Actually, if you were taking the dog to the bathroom, you take the dog out and then back in. But he says in and out to go to the bathroom. And then when he talks about the house, he says there were people that went into and out of that house pretty frequently. In and out is a repeated concept there. I wonder why he does that twice. He goes on to say, so yeah, it was kind of a party house, but again, this whole neighbourhood is sort of like a party neighbourhood because it's just off campus. So you sort of don't have to follow the university rules. This is congruent with what he said previously. He said there were occasional parties and they were sort of loud. So I don't think there was very much ruckus going on in that house. And he, again, doesn't say it was a party house or it was a wild party house or a full-on party house, just it was kind of a party house. He uses the past tense again. It was a kind of party house. So he definitely thinks that these times are all in the past. Again, logical, but he certainly has drawn a line under it. The neighbour goes on to say, I hope whoever did it gets found, because 4 people is not something that you just walk away from and act all normal. And so whether or not the cops think there's a danger, I disagree. I think there is a danger because 4 people shows that that person is dangerous. So I hope he's caught, preferably before I get back from break. Got lots of interesting things to say about these words, this statement that he's given. He hopes the person gets found, not caught, not brought to justice, not stopped, but just found. No desire for justice for him at all in this, in anything that he's said. And also, he talks about 4 people. He doesn't mention murder or killing at all here. He mentions 4 people twice. 4 people. 4 people. We see in guilty people who are accused of doing something serious, they will downplay it. They won't talk about a murder more. They'll talk about this crime or what happened. He doesn't even bring any of the violence or horrible things that happened in. He just talks about 4 people, and he does it twice. I want to know how he knows that the killer walked away and is acting normal. Because he says, this is not something that you just walk away from and act all normal. How does he know the killer walked away? And how does he know the killer is acting all normal? He doesn't. Well, he shouldn't if he has nothing to do with it. But that's the kind of conclusion that he has come to. And again, in that, no desire for justice. This is not something you walk away from and, you don't get put in jail for, or, that you don't get called to account for your crimes. He just thinks that this person has walked away and act all normal. The line about danger is oddly worded as well. Whether or not the cops think there's danger, I disagree. So what he's saying there is, if the cops think there's a danger, I disagree. But if the cops think there's no danger, I also disagree. It's really oddly worded. Maybe it's a misspeak. We all misspeak at times, but he's done quite a lot of things that could be said to be misspeaks here. Whether or not the cops think there's a danger, I disagree. I think there is a danger because 4 people, again, 4 people, shows the person is dangerous. We know that. We know that. And then I've not been following this case closely, but with no suspect, how does he know, or why does he think it's a man who is responsible? So I hope he's caught. Now, I know statistically it's highly likely that it's a man who is a mass murderer, but he has, assumed a couple of things here about the killer, that the killer walked away and is acting all normal, and that it is a he. And then the break line is weird. I hope he's caught, preferably before I get back from break. That's really selfish and self-centered. It's not caught as soon as possible to stop him doing this again or to take this danger from the streets, but preferably before I get back so that I'm safe. That's my prime concern, is that I'm going to be safe. Stuff everyone else. I hope he's caught while I'm away and before I get back. So what conclusions have I got? Well, this guy is odd. There's some really odd wording there. That doesn't make him a killer. I'm not even sure it makes him a suspect. He's certainly self-centered. He's, the center of his own world. But I have questions. I do have questions. I want to know why he was so interested in looking at the house, that he had an interest in that house that he is not explaining there. He's trying to hide in his words how closely he watched that house where the killings happened. And I also want to know what he was doing that night, that specific time when he was taking and then he talks in general. So I want to know what he was up to. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments down below. And if you press the like button, then more people will find this video. It really helps us grow, so I'd be really appreciative if you hit that like button. Even more appreciative if you share it on social media so that more people can see how we analyze words on this channel. If you want to get social, go to connect.neveratruerword.com for all the social media. Posts.neveratruerword.com is where you can see more writing, especially on true crime and analysing the words in some pretty famous true crimes. If you want to do some analysis for yourself, books.neveratruerword.com is where you'll find some books that you can learn how to decode what people are saying and look and learn a lot more than the person talking ever wanted you to know. And if you like your true crime, podcast.neveratruerword.com is where you'll find the Words of West Cork podcast about a true crime that happened, an unsolved murder that happened in Ireland in the 1990s, looking at the words of the people at the centre of the investigation. And you may find some more videos on this channel for you to watch. We will see you again soon for another video from Never a Truer Word.